Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome. I hope you're settled in for a very informative and exciting hour where we're going to be talking about all things traceability within the cosmetic industry. So I would like to welcome everybody today. And today's webinar is about the path to provenance and how traceability powers sustainable cosmetics. So I'm Stacey Fraser. I'm more of a product designer. People do say cosmetic chemist, but I don't really need to be that. I prefer to like to design things first and then sometimes let those other magical people in the lab to put things together. I'm a consultant and founder of staceyfraser.co, and I'm thrilled to be moderating this discussion on one of the most important topics shaping our industry, which is traceability. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I found some very interesting little stats today. 77% of consumers agree that brand sustainability and environmental responsibility are important. Of course, our favourite little Gen Zs and millennials are the ones that are really strongly championing the way for traceability. We've got to love those guys, don't we? And also that traceability has shifted from a nice to have to a cornerstone of the beauty industry, yeah? So that these are really, really important things now as we move through into our future of our beauty industry. So from ingredient origin to finished product, transparency has become the foundation of consumer trust and sustainability in beauty. Today we'll explore how traceability strengthens not only supply chains, but also brand integrity and storytelling. So I'd love to introduce now Dee-Ann Seccombe, who is the founder and managing director of Down Under Enterprises. Welcome, Dee-Ann. Down Under is a vertically integrated grower, producer and wholesaler of pure Australian essential oils and native botanicals. They're known for their commitment to quality, integrity and sustainability, cultivating iconic botanicals like tea tree, lemon, myrtle and fregonia. And I just want to read just quickly a little bit of information that Dee-Ann shared with me earlier today. It's really fascinating where we end up sometimes, but Dee-Ann started Down Under 25 years ago with her parents selling their tea tree oil. Prior to starting Down Under, she was a management consultant. I think this industry is way more exciting, Dee-Ann. And with Deloitte Consulting and a vice president at Bankers Trust at Macquarie Bank. Wow, things have changed by the looks of it. The pivot has taken her on a passionate journey into sustainable farming and traceable ingredients. And she advocates for the full potential of native Australian botanicals and celebrates those Aussie farmers' stories. So that's a beautiful thing. Now, joining Dee-Ann is Maria. And Maria is head of procurement for Primavera Life. Welcome, Maria. Primavera has been pioneering organic aromatherapy and natural skincare for nearly 40 years, creating responsible and harmonious partnerships with small-scale farmers worldwide to ensure quality, ethics, and sustainability. And Maria, I did have a look at your LinkedIn profile earlier today, and you also confirmed it, but some of Maria's little side hustles or passions in life are also the fact that she is a very good vegetarian, vegan chef/cook, I believe, Maria, and also loves using essential oils on a daily basis, and obviously that beautiful thing called yoga. So we'll move on now to the agenda for today. So let me just go through that. Oop, we've moved it. There we go. So a little bit of housekeeping. Please ensure pussycats and any other animals do try to stay off. Keep your microphones off would be wonderful. And we will do audience polls as well. We will have case studies, which will be very interesting. And then we'll do a live Q&A at the end and closing remarks. So with that, and without hesitation, I would like to introduce you to Dee-Ann, who can take over and give us all this beautiful information.
Well, thanks, Stacey. So I think we've got to really start with, why is traceability important? And there's a lot of reason traceability is important. I mean, it goes back to knowing where your ingredients come from, the emotion of knowing where your ingredients come from, necessity of traceability towards sustainability. How do you know your ingredients are really sustainable? Unless you know where they're coming from, there's traceability there. Efficacy, making sure that your ingredients are efficacious, knowing the quality and the safety. So there are lots of reasons, but at the end of the day, from a pure business perspective, it does come down to risk. The risk that you are taking as a business by not having that traceability. And when you look at the implications of a lack of traceability and knowing where your ingredients come from a pure business perspective, the downsides are significant. They start with financial, lost revenue, product recalls are incredibly expensive, let alone damaging. Legally, you could be in a lot of hot water if you don't have that traceability and knowledge of where your ingredients are coming from. And the damage to brand can be significant, from negative media to accusations of greenwashing, etc. So from a business, a pure business perspective, traceability is important. So I'm going to hand it over to Maria to talk about from a brand perspective.
Yes, thank you, Dee-Ann. Yeah, the same goes for the brands. As you just said, like connecting the product back to its origin, it's really like a tranquilized feeling sitting here in your headquarters and just really knowing where the product you hold in your hands actually originates from. And you have, for example, you've been next to the distillery and you've seen where it actually comes out. That really gives us here in purchasing just a really good feeling about it, that we really actually know what we're going to sell to our customers. And also, of course, traceability allows us to meet our quality standards we have, because when we know where it comes from, we actually then have the ability to verify it with our quality standards we have and compare it to it, because we would also check it against their quality assurance system and their measures the producer has in place. And also for us, the traceability is also important because we can then actually check if the commitment to sustainable and ethical sourcing actually is not just a lip sentence from the producer, but it's actually really at the heart of their business. And that's something you can only understand if you are in really close contact with the producer and trace everything down to also their operations.
Can I just jump in there, Maria? Does that also mean that when you know so well your supplier of your ingredient, is that really helpful as well for the marketing department, so that they can then take that information and be able to share that with your customers?
Oh, definitely. Of course, they're actually always interested in that. They're always asking us for information they can share. But interesting enough for us in procurement, so that's basically, of course, for the brand, it's important. But, this is done a lot these days. So if you look at a lot of brands, the texts from the outside, they're actually very similar. So for us, it's like, how is it really, what is really behind all those sentences? So it's actually giving the customer this feeling that although it is similar to what he reads maybe with other brands, with little details and the way we portray it, with the way we underline it with pictures and actually the real stories, it really means that we have been there. We actually know what we're talking about. And I would say that is more important to us than just have a story, but to really back it up and be, I'd say, authentic with what we portray.
Yeah, and I think those are key things, aren't they, at the moment? Authenticity is just so important at the moment in this industry, but the traceability, they go hand in hand. So, yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in on that too, because I found, from an ingredient perspective, pharma, it would drive me nuts because I would go to trade shows and I'd be standing next to someone who's saying, I'm traceable, sustainable, and I would look at them and go, no, you're not. I know you're not. So how do you actually deal with that? Because I do feel for brands when they're being told the same thing by two people, how do they know? And I think that's really difficult. I mean, for us, we got certifications like EcoVadis and B Corp so that people could trust what we were saying. But I go back to what Marie is saying wholeheartedly. I mean, to really know the people, the farmer, the ingredient supplier, it's so important to ideally look people in the eye and build that trust from a person-to-person perspective. I realize that's not always possible, but that is ideal.
Yeah, and also about, I would say 10 to 15 years ago, that was you put on your website you're sourcing sustainably and ethically, and that would distinguish you from other brands. But nowadays, this is just what everyone expects. It's nothing which distinguish you anymore. But now what's the difference is whether you mean it and whether you actually do it in an authentic way. And this doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be authentic. And that's something we try to achieve. Yeah.
And I guess that's where Down Under come in with, making sure that all of that information is available, so that whenever you are asked to, and the consumer's not scared to ask these days either. They really aren't. They want to see everything. They want to know everything.
And it is tough because, as Marie said, you could put your information out on the website, which other people can say the same thing. So what we're moving towards is, we've said on our website previously we're sustainable and traceable, but that's not enough to say that. We have to keep digging down and digging down and prove that we are doing traceability, we are sustainable, and provide that proof point to people, which obviously is very time consuming and information dense, but it's really important that we're able to communicate that.
We've actually had a question. I don't know if you want, I can throw this in now or we can leave it till the end. But Helena Santos has asked, how has Down Under Enterprises framework helped?
The framework's, it's quite broad, but I think right from the beginning, I was really clear what I wanted to do, which was really simple farming and do the best that we could do from a sustainable point of view. I was also really lucky when we created our farm in 2016 and 2017. I'd already been working since 2001 with really large companies that were increasingly giving me a lot of documentation on what they needed to see from a sustainability point of view. So I was very much aware of what was really important to the brands and able to marry that with what was really important to me. And so that when we were creating the farm, doing that in the best way possible, one, because I believe in sustainability, regenerative farming, but also in a way that would allow us to tell the story of that development and the way that we're farming that will allow the brands that use our ingredients to take that story and communicate it to their consumers. So I hope that answered the question, but if not, please ask it in a different way.
Excellent. Thanks, Dee-Ann. Appreciate that.
Okay, so this slide was really an attempt to look at all the ways that things can go wrong, because there are so many people in the supply chain from the farmer, which, really at farming, it's pretty simple. You grow your plants as well as you can with certain parameters. You harvest, you distill, you drum it, and then you do your QA process and then you ship it off. But along the way, you do often have to use a distiller, a third-party distillery, because, for example, tea tree oil is harvested once a year. So unless you have a large-scale farm, it doesn't really make sense from a cost perspective for you to have your own distillery. So often you will use another distillery. All sorts of things can happen at the distillery. I mean, you'll have truckloads of biomass going into the distillery, and that biomass should be separated according to the farm it's coming from. So you have to be very careful of that. You have to make sure the distiller isn't mixing oil from different farms. As an example, it could go to a broker that may blend with other sources, either material or from other producers. They might do that for several different reasons. And then, it goes along the supply chain. So this slide was really just to say there are many things that can go wrong. So once again, that traceability, ideally back to the actual farmer, is important if you can achieve it. So this slide is also talking about, why it's so important for essential oils and really as quality control in general. We looked at the American Society for Quality and the amount of money that is spent on quality control. And it was quite interesting because when the American Society for Quality canvassed executives on their estimate of costs for the organisation, it came back at 5%, whereas the reality is it's more like 15% of revenue can be credited towards making sure the quality is there of the brand's products. And what happens is if something goes wrong, it shoots up to a potential loss of 40% of revenue because of the costs associated with something going wrong from a poor quality perspective. And I think that is quite, we've looked at tea tree oil as an example because it's, very heavily used globally. And one of the first things that you can do, and the absolute minimum people can do, is look at the ISO standard for tea tree oil, look at the constituents. Unfortunately, the ISO standard only looks at the top 13 constituents, which really isn't enough. And as adulterers get more and more clever, they can easily change the mix of the oil to make it look like the ISO, and the same as aroma profiles. And when you look at all the things that can possibly go wrong with tea tree oil, as an example, when ATIA, which is the industry for tea tree oil in Australia, looked at all of the different samples that were coming in from worldwide, there are a lot of things that can be added or taken out of tea tree oil, as an example. But this isn't specific to tea tree oil. I mean, it happens across all essential oils, and I'm sure Maria can attest to, and you too, Stacey, the number of adulteration and the occurrences in the industry is quite staggering.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, obviously we've got this sort of the world of dupes in our beauty industry now of finished products, but we obviously have also the world of dupes with our ingredients. And that's a really big issue. So again, transparency is what we need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Australian Botanicals, just a little bit about us. So we're a small company. There are 10 of us. This is the team up at the farm. We have a farm day once a year. There are 3 salespeople, a farm manager, warehouse manager, a person dedicated to quality. And I'm really, really proud of the reputation that we've had over the past 25 years, which is quality, integrity, customer service, and sustainability. And as I mentioned before, we got the EcoVadis and the B Corp certifications just so that we could quickly talk to people about the values of Down Under. This is a schematic of our farm. It is dominated by tea tree, A, B, C, D, and G are tea tree. We produce about 25 tonnes of tea tree oil a year. We also have other essential oils because we sell them from a biodiversity perspective. And we're on the east coast of Australia. We do have in-ground irrigation. We use it very consciously and responsibly. And up the top of the schematic, you can see a koala corridor that the team built on our our farm days, which we're really proud of. And we see koalas come and go from time to time. But also we get a lot of kick out, as you know, we've had other native species come through from echidnas are coming through, the bird life's coming back. So we're really enjoying the very visual and tangible benefits of the biodiversity of the farm. We're all about Australia and New Zealand, 100% pure and traceable, sustainable essential oils, hydrosols. So anything Aussie and New Zealand we love to do, and that's our specialty. And quality is huge for us. We spend a lot of time and energy on it. And then the thing that I believe I've been told quite a few times by brands is that the thing that really differentiates us as a farmer is the amount of documentation that we can supply to the brands. Because, you know, most of the farmers, they love farming, they hate documentation. All they want to do is be in a field and grow the things that they really love. You know, and we have the farming aspect of our business, which we've talked quite a bit about, but we have the brokering side of our business too, because over the 25 years, as I've built customers, you know, they ask us for other Australian essential oils. And so we go out to other farmers and work with them. And this is when I was talking to Jan Shilvis on a recent podcast about, you know, how we add such value to the other farmers in Australia, because it allows those farmers to do the farming that they love, and we take care of the documentation and the storytelling and the marketing on their perspective. So there is, you know, there's definitely a place for brokers. It's just that we offer a very traceable pathway back to each of the individual growers. And then finally, it was fun. We put together an ESG impact, and we know that we're doing little things along the way, but when you put it all together, that's where you see the impact, which was very rewarding. So just a quick slide on the way that we operate is as a cooperative with other tea tree growers, and then we also pull in from other growers that, you know, we trust them, but we still audit them just to make sure that we have that continued flow of information. And I'm going to hand it over to Maria.
Thank you, Dee-Ann. Yeah, just some quick words. What is Primavera Life and where we're actually situated? So we are based in the heart of southern Germany, just in front of the mountains, the Alps. And actually, we have been the pioneers for organic aromatherapy since almost for nearly 40 years now. We have our anniversary next year. And what does it mean, organic aromatherapy? So the heart of our business are all the essential oils we sell. We have over 130 we sell, and also floral waters and the carrier oils, and we do make a lot of products out of that. And the original idea, and which is still very present today until today, is that we believe in the healing power of the plants, and we want to bring that together into our products and support the well-being as a gentle support for everyday life's moments. And yeah, you can just go ahead and Stacey. So because we're talking about the sourcing today, we build all our sourcing on long-term farm partnerships. And want, of course, to have the purest quality. So that means 100% natural, if it's possible to certify 100% organic. And that is our focus. I would really love to go into what Primavera values in a farm partnership and how we actually do that, and what are our methods to verify that. And I'm talking about some facts we can actually verify, which are really measurable. But then there's also a great part after that, which is intangible, but also the same amount of importance. So if you could just go back to the verified facts. So what we are looking for in general are small-scale farmers or family-owned producers or cooperatives. And actually we are having Down Under as our new partner for tea tree, and we're really excited about that. And I will explain to you in all those examples why we have chosen Down Under. And that was one of the reasons because, as you just heard, Down Under is a family-owned producer and actually also handles a lot of small-scale farmers. And that was actually also the reason why they have been founded, or why Dee-Ann started the business, which is a very unique approach to how to open a company like that. And that really was a great idea for us as well, and in supporting the farmers who are not able to produce the documentaries and not having the kind of knowledge actually Down Under is providing. What is also obviously very measurable, and we are looking very much for that, are any kinds of certifications. Of course, we have to look for organic if it's organic certified or Cosmos. We have also natural skincare, so we're also looking for our certification at True, but there are also many other certifications we are looking into, and I actually did not mention the ones Down Under has with this B Corp and EcoVadis, because actually it is not as common. It is not as common to have the kind of level Down Under received. So this was actually also a very big plus. And it's not about just checking like a check mark and saying, oh, they have the certification, but knowing what is behind it, knowing the money they spend on it, the resources they spend on having those certifications, and having to go into all the details of their company and changing also some of their procedures and processes to actually be able to receive the certification, is for us a clear commitment that they actually mean it, what they're saying. And I also understand that it is something where they can show that they're not just talking about their sustainable and ethical sourcing practices, but with those certifications, they have a third party verifying that this is actually true. So we do believe in certifications and the effort the producer has to do to obtain them. For ourselves, obviously, the verified facts we have is our in-house and external testing, which is quite extensive. This is obviously a measure we have to take, also because what Dee-Ann mentioned is that the adulteration just increased in the last couple of years, or in the last decade. So this is a measure we have to put in place, and we have been sent adulterated oils, and we were able to detect them. So that's why I'm very confident that our extensive testing is in place and is the right amount in place. And
Maria, can I just jump in there? What type of testing do you do? Obviously, do you do it in-house or do you send it outside? What do you
so we have a lab in-house where we do all the regular testing, like the GC, the GCMS. Obviously anything to do with density and like the physical parameters. And then we have also some additional testing, but our quality assurance always does not want us to talk about too much of it, just because of.
So you don't just rely solely on the specific.
It's just and just why it's a sad story, because obviously we are wanting to disclose all of our testing we're doing, but it is because of the adulterer out there that the more they know how well you're equipped, the better they can adjust their techniques, and that's why we keep it a bit vague in that regard. But Dee-Ann has visited our lab, so she has been there, and then anything we find. We do also external testing.
Fantastic. Sorry, it's a whole new world.
It's also good to know why maybe some of the brands are not disclosing too many details on that, just like I just mentioned. But and it's also very costly, as Dee-Ann said. The amount of testing we're doing it always for every batch we receive. We do it for every sample we receive, and then we also the incoming batch again, so that there's nothing that we're missing. But this
Okay,
actually
cool.
comes with a great cost, as you were
Yeah,
saying
I was going to
before.
say that's the trade-off, isn't it? Unfortunately, with some of this really detailed behind-the-scenes work to ensure that you have this really high-quality, transparent type of product, is the additional costs that are involved. How do you manage that? Like, it's very hard, isn't it, to not be able to have to pass those on to the consumer, and then you've got this great product, but at a really high price point.
Exactly. Actually, we can't pass it directly to the consumer because that's what they expect. That's already like we are fulfilling what the expectation they have, and we are also building on that trust that they have in our brand, which stands for a premium brand in Germany. So that just comes with it, and that's here in purchasing in my team what we have to work on every day to keep that trust and to really make the traceability work and not just talk about it.
Right. So high price, but it does ensure the highest quality of a product as well, which is important.
Yeah, and I think I'll just chip in there too from our perspective as well. We spend a lot of resources, time, energy, and money making sure that our ingredients are to quality that they need to be, and to verifying the QA process, and it makes it tough because we are never going to be the cheapest in the market, nor there would be a concern if we were. And we often go into situations where we know that the buyer is obviously asking several different people and having to justify why we're not the cheapest is a necessary process. But we also have countered that because we're very clear on the customers we want, because there is no use us effectively wasting time on people that don't care about what we can offer, which we can offer. We aim to work with people that genuinely want natural. They definitely are quality, genuinely they are quality focused. They have our aligned values like traceability and sustainability, and they want a relationship. They're not just transactional. So when we're actually out talking to people, we are literally focused on finding those people that are aligned with our values. Otherwise, they're wasting our time and we're wasting their time, quite frankly. So we're very clear on what we can offer and trying to find those partners.
And do you find that's quite a niche, but it's a new growing type of category?
It's definitely niche, but it's so rewarding. So when you make those connections, like when we met Maria as an example, we were like, oh my goodness, we found somebody that, is our soul partner. And we're very comfortable that this will be a relationship that is over a very long period of time because of that alignment. And, it's about, clearly brands have to be conscious of the price. And clearly we need to give them prices, but it's more about the price with people like Primavera and other. We have customers, our major customers I've been working with for over 20 years because we just deliver what we say we're going to deliver, and there's that alignment. So we do have to kiss a lot of frogs, but finding those princes and princesses is amazing.
Yeah, no,
I think for us, Stacey, just to chip in there, the same for us, that's like the jewel you can find, and you don't find that every day. So when we are doing all our sourcing and we are comparing and we have the first contacts, and obviously I've been in contact with other tea tree growers in Australia, and then you just immediately connect and there you found your jewel, that's actually what we're looking for. So this is also very rewarding for us then to actually find someone you really want to work with, and you want to spend your working time with people who share you the same values.
Yeah.
And if I can then, just to finish my last point, if that's okay for you, Stacey, on what we are actually asking then when we do those supplier assessments and how is actually one supplier selected and the other one isn't. And we do like a thorough verification on site, or first, like with Dee-Ann, we haven't been there yet, but we will go there at some point. And she also gave me that feedback that we were one of the customers who asked so many questions and ask again and again, and can you send us again pictures, and can you walk through us there and this point. So one of the things we're looking for, especially on our on-site visit, we have obviously a very thorough audit plan and what we're asking. But just to sum it up, what we're looking for is basically all the organic farm practices. And then my team, they're also agronomists, so they go in very much detail. They look like what kind of fertilizers they do, what's the pest, how's the pest control done, the weed control, the seedling propagation, the water management, how are the harvests done, how are the plants cut. So anything out in the field, they will check very thoroughly, because we believe that's actually the starting point. I mean, the plants, we really believe, are the ones who are actually contributing to our field of healing power in our products. So the way they are harvested, they're grown, and they're also regarded, like how they are regarded as from the producer. That's actually what we believe is bringing a lot of the healing power into our product. So that's why we spend a lot of time in evaluating the agriculture aspect. And then we would also obviously go through the distillation process, because that's when the healing power of the plants is transformed into liquids. And we would look at the installation, the temperature, the pressure, the filtration afterwards, and also the packaging and the storing, and all the quality measures, then what the producer has in place, how he's actually verifying his quality, the chemical components, how is it shipped, etc., how is it stored, how is it packaged. And then there are two also big points. We actually do take pride that we take a very high priority in both of them. I would say it's not that common. So we also do check the philosophy of the producer, meaning do they actually align with our core values? So we define our core values as respect, sustainability, transparency, sincerity, and mindfulness. And that's something, for example, with Down Under, we have detected immediately. And the philosophy aspect is actually a part of our evaluation, where we say whether or not we believe that this fits into our company philosophy. And then the last point is what we're also looking is their sustainability actions. And there we want to see, is it a real effort or is it just marketing? And that's, for example, what you've seen with Down Under. You just clearly had the impression and the feeling of every cell they were transmitting, every word they were saying, that they actually mean it and they go the extra mile. They go many, many extra miles for actually achieving that. And that is something you can only really know with talking again and asking again, and then reading in between the lines if it's just something they think I want to hear or they actually know what they're talking about.
Wow, it's a lot. It's strength and partnership, though, I think. So I think you're both incredibly very right in the sense that you have to be able to connect and have all the same values and guidelines and everything else, so that not one size fits all for everybody, but there are certainly different relationships out there. Marie, I just wanted to go back to you for a minute. You talked about Primavera being nearly 40 years old, which is pretty impressive these days. And I'd like to ask, how can small brands approach traceability effectively? So if you're thinking of a small little brand that's on its way just starting, what sort of advice could you give to them on how they could approach traceability?
You mean a brand like us, or like a producer brand?
Just in general. I mean, you're a beautiful big brand now, and
I see what you're saying.
What about providing some advice to somebody that might be a smaller brand, just sort of starting out on this journey? And maybe Dee-Ann, you might have something to throw in there too. But how can they approach traceability effectively?
I would say Yeah, I wouldn't say it's that much different. Maybe, of course, in the extents what we go to and resource-wise asking or seeing what kind of resources they have, maybe it's not in that extent possible, but in general, like having this general curiosity where the things come from, and if they have the possibility to, or if they start with ingredients, they actually know where they come from and they can actually go there. But then there's also the approach Dee-Ann is also going to talk about later, that the more you know what kind of certifications and measures the supplier has in place and what they actually mean in the industry, the more you can also trust those certifications and the measures the supplier takes in place. So if you don't have the ability to make all those on-site visits directly at the moment, there are definitely those measures in place where you can trust them as well. And the thing about philosophy and talking to them on a regular basis, I would say that's a great starting point. Just asking many questions and not being too afraid to dig really deep and have it all explained, and have virtual tours and of the facility. That's, I would say, a great starting point.
Okay, so being curious and growing their knowledge and that sort of thing is probably a good way to start.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, I'll leave it back to you, ladies. I'm not sure where we're at now with presenting, so.
Yeah, I just have one more slide, which is more I already touched a lot of those points, so it's more the intangible factors, which are not maybe as measurable as some other quality hard facts, but the challenge for us is how to make the intangible factors measurable or semi-measurable. So like I said before, for us, those are equally important. So it's not about only the verified facts and the other ones are a plus. So these has the same power next to the other ones. And that is, as we already talked about, really the personal relationship and the trust. And trust is it's a big word and it's written down very easily. But building that trust is, as I mentioned, like having those regular talks, meeting the producer, reading between the lines. How is he responding? How open is he about his operation? How does he react to maybe not so easy questions, or how does he react in price negotiation? How open is he with that? So this is all something which is counting in the big word trust. And at the end of the day, it is also, a gut feeling if you want to go with someone or not. Because at the end of the day, also, we want to have this 100% traceability and 100% of everything as a brand. And if you're not next to the supplier and the producer, you will basically never have that 100% trust or it's not about trust, but the certainty that everything is as you think it is. So there is a level of trust you have to count in, and that's the personal relationship on how you build that trust.
That's really interesting you say that, because I've actually got a reflection back here, and it says if traceability equals trust, which obviously it does, how are we building that daily as an industry?
Oh yes, good question. And that's for sure not there's not going to be. I don't
think we have enough time for all of it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not a checklist. It fits perfectly in the intangible factors, right? Saying that, well, like I can only say how I do it. It's first of all, your experience varies in, right? What I just said, like the way the producer speaks, how he opens up about maybe trickier questions. Also, like the way he speaks to his employees or the way they connect among each other. This all gives you the feeling of how the operations is done back where the supplier is. And it's about, well, in our case, it's about a lot of communication. Is it via email? If it's with a video call, and at some point an on-site visit. We've seen each other at trade shows. Dee-Ann has been here in Germany. So this obviously all counts into the trust. And at the end of the day, it is also, seeing the people and meeting them at some point. Is it virtually or is it in person? But that's where you can see if the spark actually, goes over to the other person, and if you really share the same philosophy. And this is also something at trade shows, right, Dee-Ann? And it's of course it's about business, but it's also about just connecting and see if that relationship, like your gut feeling, tells you the right thing, and if that is reflected in the discussions you have. And it might not always be professional related, but you just build that trust first over time, I would say, with your experience, with your curiosity, with asking a lot of questions, and then just trusting also your gut feeling about it.
Yeah, excellent. Traceability equals trust equals asking lots of questions. And going with your gut instinct, potentially.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I've touched the other things already. So the authenticity for us nowadays is really important. So if it's like we already talked about that quite a lot of times. So it's not just a marketing slogan. It's actually what is behind it, what measures they actually regard as sustainable. That's also very interesting. What you can always ask, because everybody would see it a bit differently. Same for about biodiversity. Biodiversity is now a big word, but it's not about just, planting or seeding some flowers for the bees. It's a lot more. So that's where you can distinguish, if they're just going to list some measures, or are they actually having this mentality of giving back to the nature and working with the resources as limited as resourcefully as possible, if that's really something at the core of their business, or if it's just we can show you this and this checklist, and we've done this or not. So I would say this is something you can actually find out very easily by asking a lot of questions.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, that's, I would say, my points for now for how we ask questions and how we detect the traceability and build on that trust.
Excellent. You're very thorough, I'm sure.
Very thorough.
Very thorough. It's a good skill. Very good skill. Dee-Ann, do you have more slides that you are going to share with us?
No, I think if we move to the audience poll, I think that's next on the list.
The audience poll, have we got that there? There we go. Here we are. So what are the challenges in sourcing natural botanical ingredients? Is what we have at the moment. A, is it consistent quality? B, sustainability and traceability is a challenge. Cost and logistics, or D, finding new botanicals. So audience, if you could select A, B, C, or D, or you could select all of them, I think, as well. That's another issue. Obviously, Dee-Ann, one of those other questions, and Maria, I guess, given the changes in climate at the moment as well, do you feel that has an impact sometimes on your supply chain? Any of that sort of thing, or are you finding that you're able to sort of buffer and sort of work? It's not too impactful at the moment.
Oh, it definitely impacts farming, for sure. I mean, we've had in 2022 we had 2 massive floods that really devastated a lot of farms. A lot of farmers never recovered because their farms were wiped out. Because tea trees are it's a survivor. And it can survive a flood, but it can't survive if a flood sits on it and it effectively suffocates the trees. And that's what happened in the massive floods from 2022. Just recently, we just finished our tea tree harvest because we had extraordinarily wet weather and we couldn't get the machines. Normally, we harvest in May, June. It's now October, and we harvested a bit, massive rains, and we just finished it. So we do have to adapt. So yes, from a farming perspective, it absolutely has impacted what we do. But we also have a great relationship with customers, so that, for example, we have so much repeat business. We know what people generally buy and they need, so we're able to take that into account and try to harvest around that, or stock, or do some premature inventory management. So once again, it comes back to that relationship and talking and adjusting, and we have amazing partners who help us in times of crisis and vice versa. If they're really stuck, we love to help people that, you know, when we can, because it's a relationship. It's a relationship that you know, goes both ways.
Yeah. And so I'm going to show the results of the poll, which have been quite interesting. And then I have another question for you, which is more for the future. So let me see if you can see that. I'm hoping you can. Let's see if it's... Is it showing? No, I've lost it. Sorry, people. All a bit new with these little things, but I can tell you that it was costs and logistics that was 44%, followed very closely by consistent quality. So that's really interesting, that those are the challenges in sourcing natural botanical ingredients.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, Stacey, because like the consistent quality, I'd love to sort of dig more into like what is meant by that, because, for example, I mean, it is natural. There are differences from, you know, time to time, but in general, if you're getting the ingredients, the botanic from the same farm, it should be really quite consistent, because you've got the same seed stock, the same farming methodology, the same distillation methodology. So it's interesting that that registers as such a big concern, and I do wonder whether that concern primarily possibly comes with dealing with brokers who are pulling material from different sources according to price or availability, or blending. I would love to know whether that's direct to farm and that's still an issue for people. That is really interesting.
Yeah, I guess from my experience working in natural ingredients over the years, you're purchasing potentially, or purchasing is, and it's a little bit different from your company, Maria, that is a really tight control on what you use, and you have your certifications, so you're working within this criteria. But for others, it's a bit more wider, and sort of, you know, their supply may not be available, so they sort of look elsewhere, and there's all this sort of inconsistency. And so I guess, that would probably be the problem that you might find. Usually it's in colour or aroma more than anything, that you can see that. And but I guess the other side of the one that stood out in this poll was costs and logistics. That is just something everybody is facing at the moment, I think. In a general criteria. We have one more question here from Param Singh, and he wanted to know, is purchasing oils from certified traders and importers, should they prove traceability?
Oh, that's a very great topic, because actually traders, it's their business model to not disclose their source normally. So it is harder to receive that traceability from traders and importers. Should they prove traceability? Absolutely. Are they doing it? No.
Interesting. Okay, Param, I hope that answered your question. They don't do it maybe, but they should be doing it. Yeah. Now, the future. What innovations do you see in the next 5 to 10 years for traceable sourcing? It's a good one. I'm asking both of you ladies this one.
It's interesting, because we looked at, as an industry, ADIA, Australian Tea Tree Industry Association, looked at technologies that can be applied to ingredients like tea tree. And the industry actually did a project with the Australian government. AgriFutures is the agricultural arm of the Australian government. And it can be done. I mean, you can put blockchain onto tea tree oil, and the industry went to the extent of creating a map a roadmap of how the blockchain would be implemented, stress tested it, proved that it could work, and got down to the cost of implementation, which was, I think at the time, about $500,000. And that was something that the industry was prepared to continue. But what we found is that there wasn't the demand for it to justify the cost. And I think from a down under perspective, we have such strong direct relationship with our customers, quite a few who have visited the farms. And so our customers didn't feel the need to have technological solutions to traceability, and have a strong preference for like the documentation that we can provide, the stories, the information, and the farm visits. So for us, that's the most important thing. But I'll hand it over to Maria if she can make comment from a brand perspective, what they might want over the next 5 years or so.
Good question. To be honest, I was also thinking about blockchain, but at the moment we are also not deeply looking into it. I think we're also open to receive input if there is any in the supply chains, but we're not actively requesting it yet. I was also thinking about technology in terms of making anything more like energy sufficient, obviously, or water usage more sufficient, anything that could help the industry to save resources is always, of course, interesting. But at the moment, I don't have like a concrete project or idea in my head where we say this is definitely going to be this and that.
Okay, that's good. Yes, I've got blockchain or AI, obviously.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Which is the other one. And then also, how might new regulations like MOCRA or EU green claims affect brand accountability?
Oh, don't get me started on this one. So obviously, being situated in the EU, we suffer are affected a lot by not only those regulations, but really a lot of regulations, and they really get harder to, achieve to. And we have a whole department, regulatory affairs, which is growing, which is just sad that they're growing, because you need more people to understand all those regulatory texts and what that means for us. And Primavera has always had the model, the business model too. We do consider trying to adhere to them as quite early as possible, because we are the market leader in Germany. So also the regulatory bodies, they are looking to us, usually primarily to us, because we are the biggest one. So that's why so just saying, what I'm saying is we're taking it always seriously, but it also affects purchasing a lot, especially also for my team for the technical purchasing, when you have to change a lot of packaging because there's a new regulation on that, or you have new inkies, new allergens you have to disclose. So then you have a lot of effects, which then actually is like the whole company is then on its feet to just have this new regulation make it work.
So I guess on one side, it is kind of effective for some brand accountability to get people to have to be accountable for their claims. But on the other hand, obviously, it also adds a whole nother 1,000 layers of extra. Work.
Probably. I mean, I can see why this is important, especially the green claims, or also, we are a cosmetic company, so we are not allowed to do any healing claims. I mean, there are really many, many regulations we have to take into consideration. But obviously, if you are a brand who takes it seriously and already adheres to many of the things, then just having on top more regulations is a bit suffocating. But then, of course, for the ones who are not adhering to it, obviously, it could help the consumer to have a standard adherence to those regulations.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we're just about out of time. One thing I forgot to do right at the beginning, very naughty, but I forgot to introduce Cavallo. So I'm just going to say Cavallo is the world's largest data platform for consumers goods industry with more than 80k ingredients listed in personal care. Cavallo is making industry more sustainable, transparent and innovative. And with closing remarks, traceability isn't just about compliance, it's about connection. It connects growers with brands, brands with consumers, and I think, and all of us with the natural world that provides these incredible ingredients. So I thank you both, Dee-Ann and Maria, for joining me tonight in this lovely discussion on transparency, and I thank the audience for joining us as well, and I hope that they found it interesting.
Thanks, Stacey.
You're very welcome. I look forward to seeing you at a trade show soon, Dee-Ann.
Love that.
Maria, take care.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.